Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Manufacturing Transformed. I have probably smile lines and my cheeks are hurting because I was just smiling and laughing so much at the episode that I just recorded with David Pannell of Faircloth Machine. And David was customer number 9. That includes ProCNC. So technically, besides our own shop, client number 8 in March of 2017. So just a year after we had started the company. And just to show you how slow the first year was, if he was number 9 in a year. But he took a chance on us. We helped him go from, the paper-based and sort of homegrown ERP that he had been working with for years, gotten rid of the paper, got into ProShop. As he said, it was like taking a freight train and taking a hard left turn. And so not necessarily easy, but would do it 10 times over. And the growth that they've seen, the transformation they've seen, going from non-certified 10 people, maybe a couple CNCs, to today, 40 staff, close to 20 machines, running multiple shifts, doing complex aerospace assemblies, AS9100 certified, that you can hear the pride in his voice of all the people they have hired, the food that's on the table because of the jobs they have created. It's very heartwarming. I love it. I love helping people like David and the businesses that they are growing. So let's get into this episode, and I know you're going to have fun with it as well. You can tell we like each other and know each other well because there's definitely some fun sparring and bantering in here. So anyway, enjoy this episode, and thanks so much for tuning in. David Pannell from Faircloth Machine Shop. What's up, buddy? Good to have you here on the show.
Good to see you again, Paul. It's good to be here.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you coming on. So you were on Machine Shop Mastery quite a long time ago, and I should have looked up what episode, but I will put it in the notes later. And your shop has seen an enormous transformation over the last several years. And I would love to get into that story. But before we get to present day, let's go back several years and talk about your background in machining, the origins of the shop, and what it looked like when, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Faircloth Machine Shop started in the late 60s or early 70s. It was founded by a gentleman named William Faircloth Sr. He was legendary. My father's the best machinist I know. He's so good at everything. And he told me point blank, he said, Dave, we used to drive that man crazy with how stupid we were. And I just can't imagine. But he said that Mr. Faircloth would thread up to his shoulder without disengaging the half nut on a manual lathe. Never. So he would bring the lathe, the center tool, the lathe tool in. He would back out the compound, throw the machine in reverse, back out to the front of the machine, put it back in, bring it down to the next depth cut. And he said he could do it as fast as you could do it with a pipe threader.
Oh, my gosh.
He's just that good.
Crazy.
And I talked to another guy who knew him, who used to come in the shop back in the 60s, and he was a hippie. Said he would walk in the machine shop with bare feet, and Mr. Faircloth would knock stuff off on purpose near his feet. I mean, he was that kind of
guy. What? Hippie or not, who the hell would walk into a machine shop barefoot? That's a bad idea.
Well, especially when someone's trying to knock stuff. Oh, sorry, on purpose.
Yeah, rolling a lathe chuck off the counter.
Interestingly enough, that guy actually became the assistant plant manager at Douglas Battery. And when I took over the shop, he was my main contact. 33% of our business came through him. Loved him. He's a great guy. But my dad brought in the early 70s, and it was a manual shop. My dad loved him to death, still believes computers are a fad.
We're going to I think he's right. It'll pass.
We're going to keep that divide and have that rotary table just in case. I came in 1994, and I am just working here until I figure out what I'm going to do with my life. That was as soon as I get that figured out, I'm going to go out and start. And I started out I had worked maintenance in I had worked maintenance in a paper tube factory over the summers and got a little bit of experience, but I really did not want to be a machinist, didn't want to go in the shop. And I got married, came in, and I dropped out of graduate school and working here until I kind of figured out what I wanted to do. And here I am. And so, but that was back in 1994. And then I worked out on the floor, just learning from my dad and Bill how to do manual stuff. We didn't have a CNC machine. We did not. We had a 2-axis project. That's probably what saved me. I figured out what the computer was asking. I didn't know what to tell it to do, but I could tell my dad. My dad could tell me, here's what I want to do, and I could do the code for him. I could figure out the math because we didn't have CAD either. It was all manual. I was pretty good in math. And then we got a CNC lathe, the Haas SL20 in 1999. I don't know what possessed my dad to want that. He just decided we were going to get it. And we bought Bill and Cynthia out in 2004. My dad and I did. And I did not have a CNC mill, a real 3-axis CNC mill, until 2007. I got a Haas VF3
until 2007.
Yeah, that was our first mill. I sold a $250,000 job to a customer that we couldn't do. That was how I got that mill.
Okay, nothing like forcing the issue.
Yeah, I went to Dad and said, "What do you want me to do?" Do I tell him to forget it? And back in 2006, 2007, $250,000 is real money around here. So we got the mill, and that turned out real well for us. And since then, we've added everything that, gosh, we got what? I think we have 18 machines now. We've got I'm counting the horizontal that's on the way. We have a Mazak horizontal that's going to be here in the middle of December. And we've turned into, we do very little manual work. When I started, it was 99% manual, and now it's 99% CNC. I'm doing a lot of aerospace production and some heavy equipment work. And that's really where the shop has transitioned to.
But the 1908 shaper is still the mainstay of the shop, right?
Oh, without that, we would close up. I mean, there's nothing. We
Okay. All right. Whew. I was getting worried for a second.
And it's in good shape. We've checked it. We have one job that runs on that machine. You know, we modified the shaper so we could take a 10-foot milling cut.
That's long.
Well, it is. Yeah, it'll do a 10-foot cut. We put a Bridgeport head on it. We could cut. We have one job that we've been doing since, I think, the year 2000. That we still do on that machine. It comes in every now and then. We set some squeegee blades up on there, surface on top of them, and ship them for a customer here locally.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So 2007, the first mill, and you've obviously grown a lot since then. What was it, 2017 that you and I met on the phone at least?
It was 2017 we got ProShop. I met you through the fabulous sales call. That you guys had just started out. Totally random. There were 50 different ERP softwares on Capterra, and I picked out 7 to look at. And ProShop just happened to be one of them. Yeah.
I'm glad we were.
Me too. It was a good fit. We could do a whole podcast on just the AS9100. About how ProShop really,
which you guys subsequently have gotten, yeah.
Yes, yeah, we did. It was I was not going to do that. I was just going to be AS9100 compliant. Then my customer said, "That's fine as long as you don't want to work for us anymore." And I said, "Well, maybe I do. Maybe I do want to get that certification. I'm terribly interested all of a sudden." So but ProShop being built from the ground up to manage your AS9100. Was a really good decision by accident. A lot of other systems, I know you've got to graft that on, and it's baked into the cake with ProShop, and that's hard to beat. That's really hard to beat, in my opinion. That was a big help.
Well, I was telling you recently that I remember the very first phone call we had, or at least maybe the one right before you decided to go with us, and I was sitting at this little bench at the front of my gym, and I was just wait. I think it must have been early in the morning for me and mid morning for you, and you called and like, all right, Paul, I'm gonna choose you, but you gotta be here for me. Like, and I'm not sure if you knew that you were client number 9 of all time. I know you subsequently have learned that, but
I did not know that.
Maybe you would have not chosen us otherwise.
Well, I'm a kind of guy who's very hesitant about risk, but once I decide on the risk, I just go for it. Whatever happens, happens. I knew that you guys were a newer company, and I was hesitant about that, but I had a really good feeling about you and about the company and about what I've told you that when you were doing your online demo of what ProShop would do, Brandon was, Brandon, my right hand guy at the time, still is actually,
Mm-hmm.
was sitting beside me, and I'm watching him watch your demo and do all the stuff digitally that we were doing on paper, and his face was going,
Yeah.
and he blurted out, "How much does this cost?" And I'm like, "Would you shut up? I got to negotiate for the price on this thing, you idiot. We're
Yeah.
not that interested."
That's right. Got to play it cool.
Yeah.
Play it cool.
Um, but I decided, I'm a small company, and I'm asking other companies to take a chance on me. So
Mm-hmm.
it'd be a little hypocritical for me to say no, no. And I felt like I was going to get better service. So we went for it.
Well,
It was a good product. It was a good product, and it worked out well for both of us. Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for that trust. And maybe just what did Faircloth look like in 2017? People, machines, industries you were serving, whatnot.
Okay. In 2017,
You're in your
let's
old
see,
building, obviously.
we were in the old building. We were 8,000 square feet. We had a whole bunch of ridge ports, manual lathe, radial arm drill, 1908 planer, big lathe with a 16-foot bed on it and 38-inch swing, something like that. Gang drill press, bunch of drill presses. I think we probably still had this old jig bore laying around.
And some
CNC wise,
CNCs.
I had a Haas SL20, a VF3. I think we had a VF2, and we had a Miano B&D twin turret lathe that we had bought, and I think that's about it. And everything was
Oh,
very manual oriented. The CNC department was 4 people.
mhm.
The whole shop was 10, maybe.
Yeah.
We employed a lot of manual machinists. I'd still hire manual machinists if I could find them, but they don't come by anymore.
Yeah.
And that was it. The shop was probably 50-50 manual CNC at that point.
Hmm.
Uh, Probably, yeah.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, those are early days for both of us. Well, I guess not early in the history of Faircloth, but certainly compared to where you are now.
Oh yeah, things have changed.
Yeah. Why don't you share a little bit about why you even went to Capterra and looked for ERP? Like what was going on?
Sure, sure. Um, Faircloth Machine Shop used to run completely on paper, and we had grown to the point that was kind of difficult. And this jackleg guy at our shop who kind of knew software, we wrote our own homebrewed ERP software, and he did a terrible job, but I did the best I could. Uh, I was teaching myself software because I didn't have any money at the time. I didn't have any choice. And so I wrote this software back around 2007, 2008, somewhere around there. And
Hmm.
then I rewrote it. I worked on it in 2011. And we had gotten in with an aerospace company doing tooling and fixtures for this new division because that's what we did.
Hmm.
And, tooling and fixtures, nobody cares about your certification. They just need a tooling and
Yeah.
fixture that works. And so we happened to hit it off with the engineer we were working for. He's a great guy. We hit it off with him, our kind of people. And we started making tooling and fixtures and got along great. And then he said, "Hey, we need some sample parts that are not for flight. Can you make these for us?" And well, of course we can make those. Yeah, I mean it's machining is machining. We can make those for if it's not for flight.
Hmm.
And so we made them for flight. I mean, for not for flight. And then we started scratching our head going, well, if we're making these not for flight and they meet the specifications for the flight ones, why can't we make the flight ones too?
Hmm.
And at the time, all we had to do was be AS 9100 compliant. And so we got compliant as long as nobody investigated the matter too carefully.
Quiet in air quotes.
Yeah, yeah, we got compliant. Yeah, absolutely. We had a quality system. Yeah, I wrote it real quick.
Yeah.
And but that business started taking off and growing, and we were going to spin apart. It was like an engine where I could just see the tack going into the red line, and eventually we were going to collapse. And I was working on the software that I had written, trying to make it better. And Brandon comes in my office one day and says, how's your new software coming? And I said, well, it's going fine. And he says, well, that's great, but I need it now, not in 20 years, because I'm dying a little bit every day. And I realized the record keeping, it was killing us. Just the overhead, the record keeping was killing us. And I realized then that, okay, it was just time to bite the bullet and buy something. And so we looked at various stuff, and it actually came down really close to ProShop versus another piece of software.
Mm-hmm.
And the other software they could deploy the next day, and you were still like 2 or 3 weeks out or something like that. And Brandon was dying. He's like, "Oh, let's just go to this other software." It's and we talked about it and said, we're about to get married to somebody, and we're going to marry them because they can do it today instead of in 3 weeks. How about we marry the person we like?
Sure.
And so, I mean, really. And so
yeah, sure.
It was, that's how stressful it was at the time. That is how stressful it was. We were dying. And then we got ProShop and realized, we've continued to grow. And the other stuff in ProShop is just as necessary as the AS9100 record keeping. It's the time tracking. It's the costing to jobs. It's the keeping track of your inventory. It's being able to review and look at your time compliance. It's being able to do your purchasing and your bill of materials and
traceability.
The software that I had written was very job focused because our shop was very job focused.
Sure.
And when I saw ProShop and realized it was part focused, I'm like, oh, why didn't I do that? Of course, yeah, make it. Oh, right. But yeah,
that's because you're not as smart as Kelsey. That's the only reason.
To some people that would be to some people that would be insulting, but to me, it's like, no, you're right. I'm not.
I'm not either. So, and I know you like a good joke. So
there are a lot of people. There are a lot of people smarter than I am in the world, and it's okay. Kelsey is. I've got stories about Kelsey. Kelsey. We were so early that Kelsey himself did our implementation.
I know, and that's legendary.
We went out to eat with Kelsey, and Kelsey asked us about this one guy who worked for us. She said, "How well do you know that guy?" And I could tell he was uncomfortable, And I said, "It's okay. Why do you ask that?" And he said, "Well, if I were you, I would just sort of ease him on out the door." And I said, "Kelsey, you've been in our shop for 2 days, man. How do you know I should ease this guy out the door?" And Kelsey says, "Well, I can see your password, and I don't know what makes people think that passwords are vehicles for personal expression, but if I were you, I'd ease him out at the door." And I said, "What was his password?" He's like, "Well, it." I was like, "But message received."
That's too funny.
Kelsey, you know how awkward he would be at that point, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And for the record, I'm sure our team can no longer see passwords. That would be a no-no for compliance and security. But way back, almost 10 years ago, I think you could do that. So
isn't it amazing how much things have changed in 10 years?
Sure. Yeah.
It really is. It's just amazing. I look out on the shop right now and think, oh my gosh, we've got rows of, Swiss machines, and we got a horizontal machine coming in, a 5-axis. We're planning on a pallet pull for this horizontal.
You got double monitors at every single computer, every single machine.
Double monitors, yeah, with double monitors for ProShop and everything. And I just, in 10 years, it's just been incredible. It really has been incredible. The change, and the software has changed so much.
Yeah, yes, it sure has. And you guys, because you're not going to toot your own horn, but you guys are doing now very complex assemblies and managing vendors and complex BOMs and the assembly processes. And that is complicated work to make sure everything comes together at the same time, on time, good paperwork. Because we all know in aerospace, if the paperwork doesn't match, you might as well not even ship the parts, right?
Many to one is a nightmare. We were pretty good at 1-to-1, bring this part in, make this part, ship it. Many to one people don't realize how difficult that is, because if you have 30 bombs going into one part, if one of them's late, the whole part's late. You don't have just one deadline to manage. You've got 30 deadlines. Then you add some outside processing into that, uh, and and heaven help you if you've got other machine components going into that machine component, and they've got bombs and they have outside processing. You've really got to watch that like a hawk. You really do.
Yeah, it's a exponentially more complex situation compared to that one to one
Yeah, it's definitely
simple part number
it's
components.
definitely logarithmic or exponential. I guess exponential. It's definitely exponential. The difficulty. You add two or three parts in there. It's not 3x. It's x cubed. That's for sure.
Mhm. So once you tried to put ProShop on the floor, I imagine that might have been a pretty big shock to some of those machinists that were accustomed to, the way it had been for so long in the paper forms. Can you just share a little bit about that transition
Sure.
to getting rid of the paper?
Absolutely. Imagine a train, an old steam train going down a rail, and now imagine it takes a left turn. That's what it was. Yes, there were some people who liked it. I had one old guy I had to invite to quit because I got tired of hearing it. I knew what we had to do. There was some resistance, and there was some internal resistance, Paul. There was some inertia because we didn't do this. We didn't keep NCR reports. I didn't write NCR reports. Um, we didn't really track our inventory. That was a lot of record keeping. And why do we got to do that? We're shipping products without that. It was a huge culture shock. And if you're in a shop and you want to go that direction and you're thinking about taking the plunge, yeah, it's going to be a culture shock and it's going to take some learning, but it's worth it on the other side of it. You're not going to grow. If you want to grow your shop, you got to make changes. There's an old guy I hired who had, I've talked about him to you, Brian, and he was just a fantastic. I had been an executive at a major corporation, came to work for me as a tool and die machinist part time, and he had been a plant manager. And one thing he said that always stuck with me: if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. If you want to get something different, you got to do something different. And it was a culture shock and it was a change, but it wasn't that bad. Looking back on it now, it's well worth it. I mean, how else are you going to do complicated work? Not willing to do a 80 AS9100 system, and that just there's just overhead that's required. You just got to do it.
Sure.
And so the implementation, there were some. The struggles were not just with the guys on the floor. The struggles were with me in my office too. In changing my way of thinking. We all had to change and grow up, but that's just necessary. It's just growth is uncomfortable. It's the way it is.
Yeah.
And
Well, I suppose, going back to what your wise friend said, um, maybe it would have been okay to keep doing what you're doing and getting what you're getting, unless that was. But I guess you were getting to that point where what you were doing was untenable. Like you just couldn't. Brandon was killing himself. You just couldn't keep up.
yeah, I had many meetings in the welding room with Brian. One of them talking about my own personal behavior, which I won't get into. But he said, Dave, if let me ask you a question about what you're doing. Is it getting you what you want? Now, if it is,
Right.
don't change a thing. If it's getting you what you want, if your business is getting you what you want, your machine shop's getting you what you want, you don't want to change, and you want to do the dinosaur strategy or just keep eating the same leaves by the same river and hoping that the environment doesn't change and kill you, do it. I mean, it's your business. Do what you want. But the business was growing, and I liked the growth, and I wanted the growth, and so we had to do something different. Otherwise, we were going to fly apart. We were going to collapse. We would have run our customer off eventually. We could have kept doing what we were doing. We could have been kept, but now we've grown from 10 people to, I think we're pushing 40. And if everything goes through next year, we'll be over 50. And maybe more
Yeah.
than that. And we're providing jobs. And that's important to me because we hired one guy. His job was a flagger on a road. He was the guy that turned the flag. That's it. That's what he had for a career. And we brought him in, and
Mhm.
it's been He's been a good employee. He shows up, he works hard, he'll do anything you ask him to do, and he's got a better life. He's got a better life because my company has grown. And that's important to me. I feel very proud about the fact that a lot of the people who work here didn't really have a career when they started working here. We've trained them to do things, and they can take these skills that are portable. If I run this thing in the ground, they can go somewhere else and get employed tomorrow, and that's important to me. And so the
Absolutely.
growth of the shop has been good for other people too, and it's been good for the country because one of my soapboxes is manufacturing, and the manufacturing know-how in this country has been drained off by other countries. And we're going to have a real awkward conversation one day when we're asking somebody we might be at war with to send us some war material so that we can fight them better. That's going to be it's going to be a really awkward conversation. Um,
Yeah.
it's not for national security. It's not good. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I 1,000% agree with you. And I think there's a lot of people that have already realized that. And there's a lot of work happening right now to make sure that we can mitigate the inevitable result that we know would have happened or could still with a conflict. But, and, to bring it back a little more close to home, you're building quite a valuable business now, right? And,
Yeah.
had you needed to exit your business 8 years ago, probably wouldn't have been worth a whole bunch.
No, it wouldn't have been.
know,
It would have been worth a little bit, at an auction and a little bit of money in the bank. But no, it'd certainly be worth more than that. Just goodness, just two pieces of equipment out there would have been worth more than the whole business was.
Sure.
Back in
Well,
2014, and that's just no.
sure. Well, that's I think that's like the perfect definition of doing well by doing good, right? You are doing good for your community, for your employees, for our nation, and
Better for me
you
too.
and your stakeholders are benefiting as well. So
Absolutely.
I think that's just fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely fantastic. Let's talk about the process of getting AS9100, because I know we worked with you guys on that. And what year did you get that?
It was what, 5, 6 years ago? I can't remember when it was. I'd have to look on it. Yeah, that was.
Okay, a while now.
I have a little bit of experience in that now. So if you're a shop out there and you're thinking about getting the quality certification, hire the consultant. Do it. Just bite the bullet, pay the money, hire the consultant. That was the best money I ever spent. I was trying to do this thing on the cheap. I was reading the standard. If you ever have trouble with insomnia, take the AS9100 standard home with you. Just put that by your bedside table. I looked at that thing. I thought, I could get AS9100 compliant or get the certified, or I could shoot myself. And I'm wondering which one is the. You would read it, and you're like, I don't know how I can do this. I don't know how to do it. Like I want to do it, but I don't know what they want me to do. And so, we hired you guys. I think it was Mike Collins at the time. Great guy. Mike came in,
Yep.
talked to Mike, and I don't know if I can do this. And Mike said, David, I mean, this is a direct quote. He said, David, if you're using ProShop, you're 80% of the way there. If you just ProShop is designed from ground up. If you're bringing your stuff and attaching your search and doing your jobs and your time tracking, it's there. Your ProShop reminds you to reapprove your documents. It reminds you to get your equipment calibrated. If you're doing that, the rest of this is a lot of paperwork, and so it wasn't near as bad. But you need somebody to help you if you're worried about it. You need somebody to help you to understand. You need to do this. You need this paperwork, this risk assessment. Here's where you need to put them. And you're already doing this stuff. You just got to write it down. And that was a huge hiring the consultant to help you take care of the niggling things you need to do. But ProShop handles 80% of your AS just doing it, just bringing your in, putting your certs in. It's already there.
And now you guys competently manage that today.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have a quality manager now, and yeah, it's just a matter of course.
We have had what, 4 or 5 audits now, and a finding here, a finding there, but it's never been just a a laundry list of all these things that are wrong that we have to fix. It's a couple little things here, a couple of things there. It's been really relatively easy to manage, and that's nice.
Nice.
That's
That's
nice.
awesome.
And
Yeah.
I routinely laugh when people talk about storing your documents. Okay, no problem, because ProShop's it's just done automatically. You got to keep this for
Sure.
5 years. I think, okay, I'll do that because it's done for me. It's so easy.
Sure.
Darn it, I'll do
Sure.
it. You talked me into it. Yeah.
So I would love to go back and share the story about the tooling module, because at the very beginning, I remember you saying, oh, that module seems overkill and we don't need that and we're not going to do it. We'll do the other stuff, but we're just not going to do that. And then I think the story was at one point you went out into the shop to help out with a setup or something. And maybe you can take it from there.
Yeah, I remember that. I'm starting to block this out because it was kind of embarrassing and painful, but I remember you showing us the tool module. Brandon and I looking at each other, both of us looked at each other like, we will never do that. They have lost their minds on that. That is crazy. And, you don't have to do that. You don't have to use a tool module if you're a one-person shop and you wrote the programs.
Sure.
And you know what all the tools are and you know what's in your shop and you remember all that. But what about when your programmer wrote the program for somebody else to run? He doesn't know what all the programs are. And so we were having some long setups on second shift, and I was, I'm going to go in here and get this straightened out and figure out what the heck's going on and why we can't get setups done. And our setup kit was a cardboard box with a few random pieces of crap rolling around in it. And I remember my machinist looking at me, and I remember the look on his face, and I just felt I'm going to come in here and figure out what the heck's going on. And I just remember the jackass ears starting to go up on my head when he's looking at me like, what do you want to do now? What do you want to do now, smart guy? What would you do? And I'm like, well, okay, yeah. And then I remember thinking, gosh, I need some sort of software that's going to keep track of my tools for me so I'll know what tools go with what job. And then I realized the jackass ears just started going up even further. Like, wait a minute. I'm already paying for that software. I've got it right now. I just have to do it and make the programmer put the tools in. Like, okay, all right, I get it now. Yeah, we're going to do it. Oh, those were the days.
That one change did just make setup smoother, faster, less frustration. Maybe just elaborate on.
Well, it absolutely
the post.
It absolutely helped out. We ended up getting one of the those matrix tool cribs, and we keyed the ProShop tool number to the matrix. So when ProShop said tool 123, you went to the matrix and asked for tool 123. It was beautiful. It was there. It made everything faster and better. One thing I've come to understand from reading a lot of Dr. Deming is the necessity of systems. And Brand and I argued back and forth about IPC frequency. We had long discussions about, these are machinists. They should know what to check. Why do I have to tell them what to check? And I came to realize, well, if I have two machinists deciding what to check and how often to check it, then I have two different systems producing my parts. And if I have two different systems producing my parts, I'm going to get two different qualities. I'm going to get two different peaks. And that's going to make it really hard to improve the system because you don't know what system is producing what quality. And so it's important that you make your parts not just with a half-inch end mill, but with the half-inch end mill that everybody else makes these parts, so that the output is the same. If you make a part with a longer mill than the programmer did, and when a shorter mill, you're going to get different. It may not be big, but you're still going to get variations. Everything causes variations, and you can get special causes instead of common causes. And the systematization is very important as you get bigger and bigger, so that everybody makes parts the same way, so that you can improve the system. If you're not improving the system, you have to improve the people. and you have to improve 15 people or 20 people, however many, make that. You can't do it. You have to improve a system and ensure compliance. And, am I the only guy in the shop who's got more than one half inch end mill? And that sounds funny, but it's not funny. If a programmer wanted a longer
Sure.
half inch end mill with a longer offset, and a guy sets it off with a shorter end mill and runs the spindle into the part, you can tear up a $35,000 Akuma 460 spindle. You might ask me how I know that. Yeah, you can do it.
No,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can wreck it that hard.
Yeah.
You can wreck it that hard. And so it's as you start growing in your business, your play toys get more and more expensive, and you've got to protect them. And one of the ways to protect them is to make sure your tools are set up the same way and set off the same way. When we got our first, I remember how I puckered when I got my second Haas lathe, the ST20. I was just, that's a lot of risk right there. And that was what, $60,000, and we bought a $250,000 Swiss machine, last year.
Sure.
And it's an important way to protect your investment.
Stakes get higher.
The stakes get higher, and you got to protect your investment. That's fact. And your setup time is the most expensive time in your shop. It really is. And if you can standardize and eliminate the problems in the setup time, it goes a whole lot easier. A whole lot easier, a whole lot more profitable.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
Yeah. If you could mention what's a ProShop feature you just don't think you guys could live without anymore?
Well, there's a couple of them, and that is from the login screen to the log out screen.
Okay.
Look, there are other softwares out there. ProShop is a fantastic product. I recommend it. I've told you, I've told Kelsey. I haven't changed my opinion to this day. ProShop is the one software that I've purchased that I haven't had second thoughts on. I believe in my heart that I am trying to collect one of every seat of every CAD CAM software out there. I've never bought a single one that I didn't go, damn it, I wish I'd bought something else every time. But I've never second guessed the purchase of ProShop. The fact is, if you want to be in the aerospace world and do AS 9100 work, you have to have an ERP system that handles AS 9100 work. And so there's really nothing in ProShop that I can't do without. I have to have that function. I have to have my IPC so that I can prove to my customer I have objective evidence that I meet your standards. I have to do that so I can prove that my guy on second shift is doing what he's supposed to. And I had a guy that we had to fire one time, and I fired very few people, but I fired this guy. He ran a whole bunch of bad parts. My second shift guy came in and said, hey, this is making bad parts. And he had just gotten there. And so I said, oh, really? Well, let's check out this. Oh, you're right, it's bad. And we had all this product we run in first shift. Let's start running back through that. And we started checking it, and it's all bad. And so I looked at this employee, we'll call him Bill. We looked at Bill's IPCs, and they were all good. But I hovered over them and realized all the inspections were done in the last 15 minutes of the day.
Oh.
Okay. Because ProShop timestamp. Well, don't say, ooh, I mean, ProShop allowed me to prove that it was not a mistake, that it was lying. I can handle mistakes. I make them all day. Everybody makes mistakes. I got my micrometer, I did one around. If you have a fantastic employee who makes a mistake, they made a mistake. But lying, I can't tolerate with lying and dishonesty. And he was amazing. He didn't do anything the first 7 hours and 45 minutes a day, but he got a whole day's production done in the last 15 minutes. No, I don't think so. You lied to me. You got lazy and you didn't check it. And so ProShop allowed me to feel good to find the root cause and to take care of that root cause. So, you have to have all the functions. You've got to have your certs. I remember in our first audit, my auditor, we went through everything. He said, well, great. He said, get me a certification for this job. I want to see the cert on this part. And I remember him leaning back in his seat because he thought I'm going to get up and go get that, and I just clicked a button and I turned the computer around and there it is. And he said, "What?" I said, okay, and it was that easy because it was right there. Oh, and another thing, back when we were AS 9100 compliant and doing some stuff, it got to where this company was doing $1 million spend with us, and their quality system allowed them to use a company that was only compliant. At that time, they changed their mind about that, but they sent a guy in to inspect us, and he came to a machine and said, "Who's this job for?" And I said, "Well, it's for you." And our old shop, you came to our old shop, didn't you?
I did come.
Yeah, I don't know that I don't know that I would buy parts from me from my old shop. That it was. God, I could tell you stories about the air compressors. Having a meeting with the guys at air compressor. But the guy comes in our shop and he says, "This is for me." And he said he picked up a piece of the material. It was plastic and it had the lot stamp on it. And he said, "Prove to me that this is certified." And we had ProShop right on a laptop at the machine the employee was using, and we clicked on it, and that was still, and we were probably 80%, 70% compliant. I was praying, "Please God, let this be one of the jobs where we actually did it, please." And we clicked that button; it was right there, and I did it in 5 seconds. And that's probably what saved us. The fact that even though we didn't look like much, we at least could document. And ProShop was a professional tool that made us look much more professional than our physical plant did at the time. And so I felt like I spent my money well there. So the ProShop you need everything that ProShop does. You really do. You can't live without anything in there. There's nothing in there you can't live without. Yeah.
Well, that was a long answer, but I appreciate it. That was an important and meaningful answer. So that's great. As a maybe just side tangent, unrelated to ProShop, tell us about one or two of the most memorable times owning Faircloth Machine Shop. Could be the good ones, could be the bad ones, but just something very memorable.
Well, Paul, as you know, I about got killed by an impaired driver back in 2023.
Yeah, I do.
And I've always joked around and said that my best talent is hiring people who are better than I am. That's my best skill. I was physically out. I was in intensive care unit for 4 days, and I was really out for, I can't remember how long I was physically unable to come in. And even after I was physically able to come in, it was some time before I could do anything. I just sat and hurt. I hurt so bad that I couldn't do anything, and I couldn't concentrate. And then when I took pills to ease the pain, I had some great pain pills. When I took pain pills, I was so high I couldn't do anything. And one of the really nice things was me finding out that I had a fantastic staff that stepped up to keep the business running completely while I was not able to do a thing. We didn't miss a beat, and that was it was humbling, but it was also gratifying that the systems were in place that the company could survive. Gosh, my dad told me he's proud of me, even though he really didn't believe in the vision for growth. That's important. The thing that really means one of the things that mean the most to me is seeing other people grow. I mentioned that before, but it really is important to me. Brandon, my right hand guy, has a high school diploma. He doesn't have a machining certificate, and he's grown into just a fantastic operations guy.
Yes,
he's really good. He treats the company like it's his own company, and seeing the growth. I've told you some stories for how mean I was to him when he started working for me, and seeing him grow as a machinist and as a leader and as an operations guy, and that. Just the other day, I walked out on the floor, and it just kind of hit me how far we've come, and seeing how many people eat, how many dinner tables have food on them because of our business. It's really touching that we've hired bartenders, we've hired flaggers. I told you about we've hired people out of high school, and and we've taught them things they can take with them. We had a bad spindle crash one time. I won't name the guy who wrecked the machine. We'll call him Brandon. Um, but it was a very stressful time, and they
Sure.
couldn't put it back together to make it work again. And it was me and Mike Teague and my dad and Brandon, and we really came together as a team to try to solve that situation and make it work, and really stood up and figured out how to make that machine do what it had to do at the time. Our first big break was a heavy equipment company, and that's a long story about Kanban systems. They were ordering through their local facility from their home office in another state based on what their computer told them they had on the floor and based on their customers' forecast, which was about like a magic 8 ball. And we would get these massive orders for work that we had to get done in a short amount of time. We would work all kinds of overtime. And Brandon and I would take turns working on second shift. At that time, the CNC department was 2 people, me and him. And I would work during the day trying to run the business, and then at night I would do production second shift, and he would come in and work second shift, and I would work it would just, we were working so many hours. I was at the machine one night, and I realized I don't know what day it is. I cannot remember what day of the week it is. We worked so many hours, but we overcame, and we kept the customer and made the customer happy. So important. And Brian, I was crying to Brian about what we were doing for this company, and Brian said to me, he had been a plant manager for a major corporation. He said, Dave, I don't care how much product they order, they can only use so much in a week, right? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, find out how much it is. I don't. The whole story is long, but basically we talked our customer into letting us manage their inventory for them with the Kanban system, and it worked great. We didn't have to we hardly had to work overtime. As long as we went up there frequently and took their empty bins back and filled them, it made everybody happy. They didn't have to worry from their home office. It was our responsibility to get it right. We had a vested interest in making sure they didn't run out of product, because that's a phone call that nobody wants to have. I hired this guy at 62 and a half years old, part time, and he repaid me so much with so many just stuff that his company had taught him that I didn't know. My dad didn't know. My dad was a great machinist, but he didn't really know anything about production manufacturing. And Brian taught me so much about building the quality into the process, avoiding. And I look back over the years and I think about all the things that we have grown to do, from just uh, almost randomly getting the right people at the right place who happen to come into our lives and share their knowledge with us. I look back on that and humbling. I can get teary eyed thinking about what we've done and what we've accomplished, and how much. If Brian had not been fired from this other company because he refused to lie to a customer, which is what they wanted him to do, and he had come to work for me as a part-time tool and die maker, I don't know where we'd be. If when I hired Brandon, there was another guy I was interested in, and Brandon didn't really have any machine experience. This other guy did, and Mike Teague was the one who said, "I think you should go with Brandon." And I said to myself, I can't make up my mind, and whoever calls me back first is the one I'm going to hire. And Brandon called me back. He's like, "Hey, I was just about to call you. You got the job."
That's awesome.
Thinking about that, and it's really humbling to think about how we've grown and how many people have helped me along the way. I couldn't have done it without everybody else. It wasn't me. It was everybody else.
Oh, that's great. Great share. That's very relatable.
I feel like I was rambling a lot, but I didn't
And
mean it. But I really did mean it from my heart. I really did. Uh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I know. I guess we'll start to wrap up this one. This is called Manufacturing Transformed, and clearly, going from the old, auto shop and all your old manual equipment and the paper and the homemade ERP to the 40 people and, $250,000 machines and 5-axis and horizontals and Swiss and aerospace assemblies. Like, I can't think of a company that's transformed more than what I've seen you guys go through since we've been, since we've known
Yep.
each other.
Pro CNC started out as an aerospace company, right? Pretty much.
Not the very earliest days. I mean, we were just, when we first opened our doors, we had zero work.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
we did get a little bit of aerospace here and a little bit of other, we're pretty diversified. But yeah, ultimately, we were very largely, 70% aerospace defense kind of thing.
Paul, the advice I could give people is tenacity whitewashes a lot of shortcomings. If you just, like Winston Churchill there, the English were getting the snot beat out of them during World War II. They just refused to quit. As long as you just keep at it. If you're not totally stupid, you don't get over your skis financially. If you just keep at it, you'll come through. Just don't give up. Don't quit. Just the problem quits before you do. I tell my guys there's 24 hours in a day, and if that's not enough, we got the nighttime too. You just keep working at it. Don't give up. Just don't give up. It's never as good or as bad as you think it is. I told that to Brandon. Never as good or as bad as you think it is. Disaster happens, stick with it. It's not that bad. We'll work through it. When you get real excited, curb your enthusiasm.
Sure.
There's going to be problems that happen. Yeah.
Great advice. Awesome, David. Well, this has been, I don't think I've laughed in a podcast this much in quite a long time. If people want to reach out and have a good laugh with you as well, how would you suggest they reach out?
Well, one thing that I'm big on is having people answer the phone. I don't hide behind voicemail. Nobody here does. If you call the shop, a human's going to answer it. And we're going to get you the person you need to know. There's always email. If it's quotes, email Brannon B. McKinney, BMCKINNEY at fairclothmachine.com. But if you got an emergency, you need to talk to somebody, just give us a call, 336-777-1529. During business hours, we answer the phone and you'll talk to a human. It's important to me. Yep.
Very good. And the website, is it fairclothmachineshop.com?
It's fairclothmachine.com. We need to
Faircloth Machine.
Yeah, we got to update that website. Actually, we've outgrown our website, but it's an old billboard right now. We need to really update that.
All good. Yeah. All good. Very good. All right, David. Well, thank you so much for this time. I've really enjoyed getting to know you over these past years, and just thrilled to be in your orbit and a small cog in the wheel of what you're building there. So congratulations on everything.
ProShop's been a good partner to us from the very first day. I don't know if you remember, we had that really weird error at midnight when it cleared the cache. It wouldn't rebond to the port or something. I don't know if you remember that, and our system would go down. You don't remember that?
Don't remember that.
Yeah, it was
Kelsey would.
Well, yeah, Kelsey would, because he was involved. You guys figured out that it happened at the same time. You figured out what it was doing. Even Kelsey said, I don't know how to fix it. You couldn't fix it. But you said, what we're going to do is we're just going to spool up another installation. We're going to reinstall this on your server because we had it hosted here. And you had somebody.
Oh, that's right.
You had somebody waiting for it to go down to restart the process for us at night at like 2:00 in the morning or whenever it was, so that we would stay up. And you did that until you got the new installation in and got it back up. And I told people asked me, did you ever have problems? I said, sure did. And they handled it. They stood behind the product. They got it fixed, and we never had a problem after that. We even got that QuickBooks proxy issue taken care of. Yeah. So ProShop's been a good partner to us. There are no other vendors that I'm as good of friends with as I am with you. And Kelsey and the rest of the crew at ProShop. So you've been a good partner, and that's honest truth.
I can definitely say the same.
Okay, great.
Definitely say the same. All right, David. Well, thank you again so much for this, and I will see you hopefully in a couple of weeks at our event in North Carolina.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Cheers, my friend.